Most excellent to be here. Thank you so much for this opportunity to join this webinar to share some ideas and thoughts. And maybe I was thinking that are these things new or something that you did not know beforehand? Might not, but hopefully I can share you some kind of inspiration to make some improvements or make some kind of plans. Because quality assurance communities of practice is my topic of today. Of course, we are all living in the modern times in the age of artificial intelligence. Well, that happens. That's how it is nowadays. But we will be talking quality assurance communities from teams to center of excellence, from national to international, different levels. And let's get started, starting with a few words about myself. Yes, my name is Mikko Paloheimo. I'm a freelancer quality assurance coach. I have my own freelancing company, Paloheimo QA Mentorworks as well. I've been doing different types of quality assurance and testing things in different assignments and employments for approximately 20 years. A wannabe speaker, so to say. There's a list of a few of those events, conferences I've participated in, giving talks, presentations about, well, almost the same topic I'm talking about today. On my free time here, I'm also involved in this Finnish testing meetup group as an organizer. I'm one of the 5 guys running that initiative. I will be sharing a bit more information about that later. I was nominated as the Tester of the Year in Finland years 22 and 24. Unfortunately, I did not win the nomination. The competition was quite tough, but anyway, I was a nominee there. And well, in addition to being a freelance QA coach, I'm full-time lead QA engineer at SOK, which is part of Finnish S Group, which is a network of companies in retail and service sectors like restaurants, hotels, gas station services and whatnot. And SOK is like the central cooperative for all of these different business areas. And there is the digital development department that I belong to currently. I have been there just 2 months. So my experience at SOK is not so long, but I've spent let's say quite a long time of my career in finance industry doing testing and QA and so on. But okay, that's enough about me. Well, sorry, forgotten why this topic. Well, this is also quite important because this topic, quality assurance communities and cooperation between, testers, quality assurance people, and people involved in tech industry altogether is something that I've kind of like become to love and find my best skills or well, anyway, it's something that I really become to find very, very interesting. I've been involved in improvements and development of communities and so on. And I'm, like I said, I'm also doing it on my free time in organizing this meetup group. So it's just something very, very close to my heart. But okay, then let's get started with the actual content of my presentation, quality assurance communities and building the cultures there. This happened in real life. There was a community that we started building. Before that, there was actually no community. Nothing was there. It was just like teams of test engineers all over the organization, but there was a small group of people and like a shared will, or let's say goal or target, that we want to build something, and it started rolling like maybe a snowball on a snowy mountain, and it started growing, and it grew in many different areas, but it was something that was made quite permanent. And what was those things that made this community last? Well, that's what I want to talk about today, those things. But before going to, let's say, the frameworks or the foundations, let's start with a few questions that you might also find quite familiar. Do you recognize in your own everyday work life these situations that you belong to some kind of, it might be a team, department, community, whatever, and a key person is leaving and taking all of the knowledge with them. And after that, nothing happens. Or a quality assurance community or whatever specialist community exists. But in practice, it's one or two active persons, and the rest just free riders or even maybe sleepers. Also, the stuff about artificial intelligence, the huge hype ongoing all the time. AI is coming, but nobody really has time to explore it. Maybe you recognize these things. I would say these are not technical problems, but these are related to the culture that's built into the organization, into the community, into the team, whatever it is that you are working with. My central theme or thing I want to convey to you is that the quality culture, it will not die if it is built into the community, not the individual. This is something that it's, well, when you think about it, hopefully it makes sense. And if it's centered on individuals, well, there is always the risk that somebody is leaving, something is happening, there are changes in staffing or recruitment or whatever. But if the quality culture is built into the community, it will last. And we will explore some of the foundation and frameworks for quality culture building in this webinar. Let's have a look at next the 4 levels of communities that I have had experience in, and I consider very important also the quality assurance community and industry all over. So the 4-level community model, let's start from the bottom, the team level. So the team, actually, if you think about it, usually it's thought of like a bunch of team members in a developing team with different kind of roles. But that also team is sort of like a micro community in itself. There happens these everyday routines, continuous quality assurance, and testing things in increments and sprints and whatever is the method that you are developing something or maintaining something or doing whatever is it that you are doing. And if we climb up from the team level and think about, well, okay, most of the times you are included in some organization, in some company. Well, of course, if the case is like a very small company, there might not be these kind of internal communities. But if we are talking like mid-size or larger companies, there does exist these kind of internal communities. or centers of excellence. They might be called guilds or chapters. There are multiple different names for these, but they are like what's in common of these internal communities is that they gather those specialists together, and there they build up, for example, ways of working, different metrics, learning structures. The might even be processes or these let's say best practices on doing whatever the community is focusing in. It might be quality assurance, testing, security, data, whatever it is the theme, but of course we are focusing in quality assurance and testing. But these are the internal communities. And let's put it this way, we are focusing on company internal communities. And if we climb up from those community or company internal communities, then we come to this national community level. For example, here in Finland, which is not a very large country, we have 5 million people approximately here, and in the capital region, well, 1 million people living here. We can easily talk that, okay, our community, this Finnish testing meetup group, can be called a national community. Of course, if you compare to like a larger country, for example, like Germany, there are these different states or different larger cities that might even have their own communities. But anyway, it's something that's like above the company communities. And in addition, well, this Finnish testing meetup group I'm involved in is naturally an example of myself, but you might be well known with, for example, this Ministry of Testing initiative community and all of those chapters they have in different countries and different cities. It's quite well known and quite large community, this Ministry of Testing. And then if we raise the altitude even higher, we can think about the community on the international level. And this is where like the trends of quality assurance and testing, they are circling around. This is where the networks of professionals are made. And this is also where, you know, bringing knowledge home is that when you participate, you get the latest trends, latest innovations, and latest solutions. And that's where you can bring those home to the national level or the company internal level or even the team level. So this is what happens. And of course, each of these levels kind of like strengthen the next level. And all of these support the testers' growth in this age of AI. Of course, these can be happening simultaneously, of course, but anyway, there are certain characteristics of these different levels. Let's talk about these next, and let's start with the team level. So this is where the culture is built in the everyday. Of course, thinking about culture is well, it's different from, you know, tasks related to testing and those kind of things. In speaking of culture, I mean a bit like a larger concept of what's included there. For example, routines and rituals. What kind of retros do you have in your team? What is the definition of done? What are the test review practices or the things that you do in you know, how is it, are the sprints 2 week long, or what is the way of working? Also on team level, the continuous quality assurance is quite important. Thinking about this maybe classic shift left and shift right thinking of like test engineers participating in, let's say, for example, design meetings or specifications or something like that. So doing there and being involved in the development process like earlier on. And of course, shifting right, participating in, let's say, deployments and monitoring and feedback gathering and those kind of things. If we think of this shift left and shift right thinking, of course, daily testing is part of the development cycle, and it happens all over there. A good example, if you want to learn more about testing as a part of the development cycle, is Lisa Crispin's and Janet Gregory's very good books about this theme, but not going into those now more. On team level, psychological safety, in my opinion, and also in my experience, is very important. It's very necessary for the team culture to be able to share issues, ideas, and thoughts out loud, where you can tell that, okay, you made a mistake, or that something worked fine, and celebrate the success. Those are the things where the learning happens. So focusing on psychological safety is also very important from culture building point of view. And knowledge is living in the team. Team is, there are ups and downs, busier times and more quieter times. It's important to have some kind of documentation, not documentation for itself, but, like written practices, guidelines, rules, ways of working, these kind of things. Of course, it helps with onboarding. I can tell this from very recent experiences, as I joined the team only 2 months back, and having their materials that you can find out about practices and those kind of things. It was very important. And also capturing and making sure that there is not too much of this, let's say, tacit knowledge, kind of like the things that only some people know, and it's not written anywhere. So it would be very important to share this kind of information somewhere, wherever it is that the team has the documentation saved. But those are things that affect quality and the team culture quite a lot. Then let's move on one level up to the company internal community, center of excellence, guild, or chapter. So what separates a community from a team? Well, team works together very closely on a daily basis. But a community, all of its members, they learn together. A community, internal company community, crosses the team boundaries, bringing people together from different projects, different organization units around shared knowledge. For example, different departments and different teams and whatever. If you gather the test engineers from a company into one room, there starts these discussions and sharing and those kind of things. And those are very important for the success of the company, for the success of the teams. What does a community, internal community in practice mean? Well, few examples. There could be, for example, regular learning sessions, sharing things for the members, participants, a shared backlog. What is it that we want to learn? What are the things that we would like to share for everybody? or internal trainings or workshops. These are very, very good things to have and organize, and also very easy to organize. Shared metrics, ground rules, how do we do quality assurance and testing? Of course, there has to be some autonomy there, but it's good to have some kind of ground rules, because inventing the wheel again and again and again in different teams, that just does not make sense. But having those like basic ground rules, it's a good thing to have. And of course, knowledge sharing across the team boundaries. This is very, very like core thing of an internal community. An example, in my previous employment job, we had this internal training program, and okay, there was quite many test engineers, QAs, and also other roles interested in these things, and we were thinking that what are those common knowledge and skill issues that we would want everybody to have access to. For example, let's think about test automation. Whether you work in this department or that department, you need test automation skills. Or you might need skills for test data management and using test data, wherever is it that you work in the organization. So those kind of like common things. And we started a program that was like maybe once a month or every 2 months. We had a session. People gathered there. There were 80 to 100 participants per session. We recorded the sessions for those who could not attend, so they could view it afterwards. And these were hugely popular. Of course, there were those like special things that were concerning only some team or some department, but these common things were those things that we wanted to share, and it became very important part of that internal community. And I think it's still rolling there in that organization. So that was like a example of what it could be. Of course, there are many other things that communities can work with, but anyway, you get the idea. Let's move on to the third level, the national community level. Of course, my example is from Finland, where I live and work, and so on. So this is a story about this Finnish testing meetup group. It's voluntarily run. It's independent of sponsors or companies. It's free for its members, and it's non-profit thingy. So it was started in 2023, and currently we have 5 organizers. I joined 2 years ago, and the 5th member of our group joined. It was actually just this summer. So anyway, what we are doing is that we organize these kind of like on-site only sessions where we give 2 presentations about quality assurance and testing, whatever is the topic or the theme, and we give opportunities for, let's say, newcomers or first-timers to come and practice their presentation skills. But also we open the stage for, let's say, international conference speakers who might possibly want to, let's say, do a practice run of their presentation they would be giving in some other event, and anyway, different things from different companies. People joining there are from different like levels of experience or different levels of employment. There are people who are still in between, and people who are, let's say, CEOs or juniors. So it's the common theme is testing and quality assurance. In 25 we have had 13 on-site events, and this year we have 10 events planned. And in these events where people share their, innovations, inventions, and tips and tricks and practices, ways of working related to these themes of QA and testing, well, it works as an sort of like an external mirror, and you can see your ways of working relative to others, how the other company or the other QA team is doing their work. Is there something we could maybe benefit out of this, or improve our own ways of working? Also, it's very effective place for peer networking. People can ask without competitive dynamic, and this is a characteristic of, let's say, QA and testing industry. Uh, in a sense that, or let's say in my experience, people working in this industry, they are not so competitive, but instead very, helpful, sharing information, giving assistance, and helping people with different kind of problems and offering solutions. And of course, this kind of events are a good places to bring ideas home. You hear what others are doing, and you might take the best practices back to your own company, internal community, or your team. So this is something that can be done. And okay, Finnish Testing Meetup Group is, well, based in Helsinki in Finland, but I'm sure that if you do a web search around your location, your country, your city, your state, or whatever is it that you are staying in, you will find some kind of community, a testing community over there. Just if you are not a member yet, go and join and enjoy the benefits. Okay, but then let's move on from this level to the internal community level. This is about conferences, and well, they are not a luxury. They are a way to keep your skills current. And what is there that you should be looking for at these conferences? Of course, new trends, new methods, networks and contacts, and of course, benchmark for your own work. What is the level that you are doing your own QA and testing things? Are you like above the current trends, or is there something that you could maybe improve? And of course, as a speaker, it's a possibility to structure your expertise and share your knowledge. This is something that I like to do quite a lot, sort of like also grown to love it. But anyway, these are the things that you look at in the conferences. And how does it become then organizational knowledge that you can bring to levels 3, 2, and 1? When you join a conference, you take notes, you learn, you become inspired. When you come back to your company, your team, debrief with them right after the returning. The longer it takes for you to, remember those things and talk about them, the harder it gets. It's very good practice to do a short summary and share with the community what did you learn, what were the key topics, key things, and try out some of those ideas that you gathered. Try them out in practice. Present findings at the next session that you have, team or community things, and also do follow-up. And that's how you can bring those goodies back home with you. I've done this in for example, Swiss Testing Day. I learned beautiful things regarding use of artificial intelligence in test planning. And well, TestCon Europe, I think it was the 25 session where there was quite good presentations regarding financial industry regulation. And those were things that we took home and implemented immediately into our own ways of working and guidelines and practices. So it's not only the idea, but it really becomes reality. Okay, but then artificial intelligence. I should explore these tools, but there is no room in the calendar. This is, I've heard this sentence so many times from so many different people in so many different companies or countries. You know, the obstacle in using AI in testing. It's not a skill thing. It's a time and space gap. You know, people are so full of their, let's say, normal work that they don't have time to learn and try out new things. Of course, AI is already here and has been for a while already. There are plenty of different services and LLMs that are already in use in many teams. Of course, some teams are very, very advanced in using of these, but it's quite reality that not all are there. Doing it alone is quite hard. I found out that, you know, experimenting without peer support and shared direction, it gets you somewhere, but it stops at some point. And here the community is the answer. Sharing the experiments and finding out ways to move on and find some solutions. That's where the magic happens in the community. Few practical ideas about artificial intelligence assisted testing at a practical level. Of course, now we have to remember that the speed in which artificial intelligence is affecting, let's say, tech industry testing and quality assurance is the speed is astonishing. But anyway, still, if we consider that you have to start somewhere, there are things that, well, low threshold thing is like test case generation or sparring with the artificial intelligence chat, whatever model is it. They can assist you with planning, but the tester is that who evaluates and completes those things. Also, low threshold things are quite easy to try out and do some easy improvements or reports and documentation, you know, test results, distilling findings, doing visualizations that help you bring the findings and the results to people who are maybe not so involved in testing and quality assurance in general. For example, POs or developers or whoever managers there are that need this information. And of course, AI assistant can help speed these kind of things up. Good things to try out together, like a bit more advanced type of test planning, maybe risk analysis, improving or updating your exploratory testing plans and skills, and improving testing in general. You know, getting some kind of challenges for your traditional testing thinking. That's where AI can help you with. Or developing your skills even further, for example, on code analysis, finding bugs, assessing testability, explanations for the tester, why is this service or application working like this? And this is something that you can do beforehand and maybe understand the things a bit better before going to talk to your team member, the developer, who has like more technical understanding of these. Well, these were just few ideas that could be thought about. But what about the tester's role? It changes, but I would say that it's not disappearing. AI at the moment, well, kind of like a summarization of the previous slide, you can discuss test improvements, test plan, risk analysis, reporting, regression testing. But AI at this point does not yet, at least very well, do these things like understanding the business context. You yourself and your team are the best experts in that. What is your product? Who are your customers? What is it that you are trying to do? What is the best quality for them? Critical evaluation, is the result really correct? That's wanted. the best for your customers? What about ethical responsibility and decision making? That's also something that you are still the expert in. User experience and empathy is the solution or application or service that you are creating and improving and well, having around. Is it like user friendly? AI might not be the best one to have opinions on that. And of course, communication and collaboration in the team. That's something that happens between people, real interactions. AI still is a tool, but the tester is the professional, and this won't be replaced. It will be developed. And this, of course, concerns all the different roles in the developing teams, the developers, the product owners, analysts, business representatives, whoever there are. All of these different roles need to adapt to artificial intelligence use and its capabilities. Quality and regulation are also very, very important to keep in mind what testers should be aware of. At least in European Union level, Cyber Resilience Act and this EU AI Act, these are affecting the use of AI services and solutions. They also give some requirements for software products and of course testing as well. And what are the criteria that have to be used in testing these different type of systems and where can they used? It's you have to know about those regulatory let's say constraints or rules. It's very important, and I would say that it's your responsibility to know what the AI is generating and evaluating it. You are the expert, and you can tell if there is hallucinations or nonsense. You are still the expert, and your skills will stay that way when you do these evaluations and sort of like find out if the AI generated solutions or responses are correct. It's very important to document your testing strategy. How do you do your testing and different evaluations, for example? Data quality is something that, of course, you also have to understand. These are basics of testing and quality assurance, but they still are important, and follow the regulatory changes. Of course, all of this is subject to your organization's own guidelines and requirements using AI tools. And there are different industries and let's say different levels of regulations. For example, medical or financial industries are much more regulated than, let's say, e-commerce, for example. But I would still say that regulation is not an obstacle. It's something that's giving us the framework to work on and do things wise way and correct way. Solution to being busy, shared learning time. This is something that I have experienced, that people come to me and say that, well, I would like to do this, but I don't have time, and we have this pressing timetable and deadlines and whatnot. Few ideas. For example, an AI Friday. Why not put an 1 hour block into the calendar? Have it there for 1 month or 2 months and see what happens. Focus in one tool or one use case at a time. Do not make it mandatory, but you will find out that somebody learns something every time. It's good to have the findings logged to the community backlog, the team backlog, or wherever is it that you store your information. And next time, when the 1 hour block is over, next time, pick up where you left off. 1 week is such a short time that you cannot forget, everything. So it's easy to pick up. And, the team that experiments together just learns faster. Community experimenting together They are building shared language and shared understanding. They are building the culture. Few thoughts or ideas for learning paths. It's building a direction, not a package of whole. And in these modern times, you don't need to know everything. You need a direction or a way to learn. It can be a certification, or it can be done as a self-study. There are huge amounts of materials, for example, LinkedIn Learning, on different course platforms, or the traditional books. For example, Act to Lead on test leadership management, written by my friends Kari Kakkonen and Marko Rytkönen, or the quite late published book Taking Testing Seriously by Michael Bolton and James Bach, which is on my bucket list, not yet read, but anyway, easy way to go on. Or hands-on experience, joint experiments in the team, pair testing, or joining some kind of mentoring program if you have such. If you don't, well, create one. And of course, community learning. There are options there as well. So you cannot take everything at once. Maybe choose one path or a combination and start from there. And how do you build your own path? Well, assess your current level. Where are you now? Where is your team? Be honest about the starting point. Choose a direction. Where do you want to be in 6 months? Set one concrete goal. Choose a path or a combination of different things. What fits into the daily life so that you can still do your real work in your team. And build the structure. Block time in the calendar. Find community support. Follow up and iterate. The path alone won't help, but you have to walk it. There are different levels of communities that support your learning. How this type of model of communities survive change? Well, the problem we talked already in the beginning, we had a community, but few members left. If the community is fragile, well, one or two persons drive everything. No documented practices, personal changes equals community dying. It works until it doesn't. But characteristics of a resilient community, multiple people sharing responsibility and taking actions and activities leading them. Ways of working are written down, not only tacit knowledge. Rituals survive the personal changes. And when a newcomer gets there, joins there, she can easily find out what this is all about. It's just not something that you be sucked into a dark hole, but it is there. It's something that can be shared. And as a summary, 4 levels, 1 shared goal. Team level, community, company community level, national or international. Team level, everyday practices and routines. Company community levels, shared learning, ways of working. National level, this is where the peer learning across organizational boundaries happens. And international level, trends, networks, and best practices. Building the quality culture into the community, that's the key, not the individuals. What can you do tomorrow? Few examples. Schedule 1 AI experiment hour with your team. If there is a community, name 1 additional community owner. Document 1 new practice and start following up. Join your local testing or quality assurance community, become an active member, and join to learn and to share. Choose your next step on your learning path. If you want to, you can check out some of those improvement templates I've created. There is a QR code. It leads to my own website. You can download those templates and well, you can even print them out and use traditional old school pen and create some kind of goals for you And basically, this is it. If you have questions, shoot. I'm very happy to answer those. And if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn and send me some questions or comments or feedback, whatever, in chat, feel free. So this was me. Thank you for attending. And I guess now would be time for questions if there are such.
Hello, hi again. As promised, I'm back to you. We have some questions already. Mikko, thank you so much for wonderful presentation. Thank you a lot. And right now, that's time for the questions. I'll read them out for you. Maybe you covered already some of them. It was the slides, but I will read some of them, all of them anyway. So the first question is from Sadhi. I heard many times that in AI era, we actually don't need quality assurance engineers. What do you think about this?
This is a very good question. And well, I would say that we are moving towards product teams where team membership is more important than, let's say, a role membership in the team. And that would mean that, let's say, the team members would have like larger area of expertise, but this is still something that's, I find that the industry, or let's say the tech companies, are moving towards that, but it's not reality all over. So there are still companies that are heavily relying on different roles and their tasks and their focus areas, like QA roles, testers, developers, analysts, whatever is it that they are focusing in. So I would say that we are moving towards that, but it's happening slower than, let's say, AI improvements or developments. That's my like 2 words on that.
That's optimistic, I would say. Okay, then we have the second question from Roberto. It is true today there is a lot of pressure to release products fast with less time for QA. And with big data, seems like AI will be the most valuable way of keeping acceptable quality. Do you think the role of QA communities will evolve into a controller regulator role that is creating guidelines, guardrails, specifications, etc.?
Well, definitely it should. I'm of this opinion. If we think about, let's say, organization or company internal things where let's say services or products or applications are being developed, I would say that it's the QA community's very important part in setting those guidelines, like it was mentioned in the question, guardrails and ways of working and practices. And it's about adaptation. The software development in let's say the life cycle in whole is in a state of transition and adaptation. So of course QA and testing needs to adapt. It might not be very easy because changes are happening very fast, but definitely it's about adaptation and remembering those like basic key things of testing and QA, which are still there, which were like 20 or 30 years ago already. So that was mine.
Roberta is continuing with the second question, which is also success of any QA community will highly depend on the culture, but also top management support. What advice could you provide on how to sell the need of developing QA communities as the strategic advantage to executive management? That's a tricky one, I would say.
Yeah, it's not very often that, let's say, top management understand anything about quality assurance and testing. They should understand about quality. it's kind of like a basic concept. But I would say that, okay, if there is a like a chance to meet with these people, this level of people, and explain it to them, what does mean quality assurance and testing, and what does it mean to products, and the happiness of the customers, then they would realize that, okay, this is something that we could focus in, and maybe give more resources to. Or maybe you could get a book and give one of these books to your like top managers, and hey, read this and let's talk in a week. This happened with me. I in my previous company, I gave this book to our like IT top manager, and hey, read this. Well, the results were good, I could say that. But you have to have some kind of plan. If you just go there and talk like this would be something nice, and like that, so have some kind of plan, some kind of initiative that you would want to work through, and maybe idea of the benefits. If you can present that to your top management, I would say that there is a success.
Okay, thank you very much. We have actually question that create already a discussion, and participants were chatting with each other about this. So Abraham is asking, nowadays, what advice would you give to a QA engineer who is trying to land their first job after graduating without any professional experience?
This is something that I've been asked quite many times. There is no simple answer, but I would say that first ask some questions about you, about yourself. What is the thing that's like most interesting to you? What is the like industry you would most want to work in? Focus in that. Find out all the details that you can read books about it, find the information, focus on that. Then think about what is the skill set. Quality assurance and testing, there is so many different things that you can do there. It can be like very, very technical things like test automation, performance. You can then either maybe follow a track of becoming a security specialist, or then like general testing. It can be mobile things. What is it that interests you? Find out about that, specialize in that, and then when you go to an interview, you can tell that, okay, I'm a specialist, I'm very interested in these things, and I want to improve my skills in those areas. There you can show that you have ambition, you want to do something. So honesty and interest, focusing in some area, that's, I would say, it might lead somewhere. Of course, it's not a promise, but I really hope that you get there.
I would agree with this, actually. I mean, in Svitla, we basically almost never have junior positions. So it's not like from the experience that I have in Svitla, but from my friends who works in like recruitment, they always say that because I have younger brother, and soon he's going to be looking for his first job, and he also wants to join like tech industry. Every recruiter is saying that the curiosity is kind of something they're looking for, not for somebody who just wants to join the industry and have money, but actually being curious in the industry, trying to learn, trying to maybe try something even to do for free. I did this project just as a hobby, these kind of things, just to show the curiosity and passion to what you're doing.
Yeah, I would like still to add here that on the other hand, do not despair about if you cannot find your like perfect goal or idea what you are doing. I was almost 50 when I realized that what is it the thing that I love most. So, so yeah, when I was 20, I had no idea that I would even end up in IT industry and test.
Oh, you see, that's a long journey sometimes, right? Yeah. Well, we wish all the best luck, yes, to this person. So we also have another question. From your experience in the Finnish QA industry, what skills or qualities make an international QA professional stand out in the Finnish job market, especially in the age of AI? What should international candidates focus on to become strong candidates for QA roles in Finland?
Well, I would say basically the same kind of things that were answered to the previous question. The Finnish, let's say, job market, there is a challenge for you because many of the companies require understanding and skills in Finnish language and also Swedish language, which are quite difficult for foreigners to understand. But of course, there are also like international companies and some teams or let's say IT departments use only English. So it's not everywhere, but there are certain organizations that require Finnish skills. But I would say the same kind of things that have the interest, have the specialty, because different types of specialists are needed even in the QA and testing area. There is a need for data people, there is need for security people, there is need for like performance specialists and so on. So it's quite difficult to pinpoint.
Okay, so the next one, I'm slightly confused, but I hope we'll figure it out together. So communities are about taking, but AI is more about taking info now. Do you agree? And the more specialized a problem is, the higher level community you need to ask, and the greater the temptation to just ask AI for a quick answer. So, what can actually prevent international communities from falling apart?
Well, if I understand this correct, or let's say I have an opinion about this. You can use AI in many kind of discussions, and they can be very, let's say, technical or very like in depth about quality and quality assurance and such. But still, I would say, and I would advise that even if, let's say, using a LLM AI service would be the easy way, it would be still worthwhile to ask for, let's say, the second opinion of your colleague or your, let's say, peer in some other company working in testing and QA, or joining a community and starting a discussion around that particular thing that you have there or the problem that you have there. Because I find that interaction between real people, it's still, it's like advancing the things that you can discuss and find out just by using AI. I'm not sure if this was what the person was after, but anyway, that was my opinion on that.
I think Yaroslav actually clarifies a little bit. So communities are about talking, but AI is more, it was not taking, it was talking. So communities are about talking, but AI is more about taking info now. Do you agree with that?
Well, also it depends because communities there you get to involve in discussions and find solutions to your problems and get inspiration to try out different things. So it's not only like waving hands or listening to presentations. So it can be also like let's say technical discussion or that kind of thing. So I would still say that communities are a good thing. I have community tattooed on my arm. Not
Well, I also believe in communities, so my answer would be the same, I guess. Okay, so we have not a question but a comment. So true about people in QA valuing being helpful and trying to find solutions together over being competitive. Thanks for bringing this up.
Well, this is just my experience because I've been, talking to QA people from many, many different countries. And in general, this is what happens. It's like 97.5% is like this. People want to share, they are really open and supportive. And, well, of course, it depends on your own personality as well. I'm kind of like, I cannot help it. I was born like extrovert, but, still people are, in my experience, that way.
And you see, people can relate to this experience. So I guess it's kind of common. Okay, and the next question. AI models are trained, among other things, on content from active communities. What happens to future AI training if the growth of AI assistants actually leads to the decline of these very communities?
Well, this is, well, not an easy question to answer, but maybe like considerations on what would be happening in the future. But I would still say that it's about adaptation. You cannot expect that, let's say, communities would stay the same all the time when, let's say, AI is evolving and improving itself, or let's say the IT development, the things that, let's say, the life cycle is improving. How would QA or the communities stay the same? They are adapting as well to the new realities we face. So it's really hard. I don't have the crystal ball. I wish I had. But on the other hand, regarding adaptation, it's also something that we, as testers or QA people, we can also affect ourselves. Bringing up these questions and discussions. Where are we going? What is our target? What is our goal? What do we want to do? Are we keeping in line or in track with all of these things that are happening so fast? And should we like improve ourselves somehow? Whether the community is team, company, internal, national, or international. So it's about assessment of the situation where we are and adaptation to that. So you can affect it yourself, whoever you are there in your team or everyday life. So you can affect it yourself as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. We have four more questions. Maybe during this time we'll have more, but right now there are four of them. In real projects, requirements are often incomplete or constantly changing. How well do you think AI can handle situations that require a QA to think beyond the documented requirements and identify unexpected risks?
Well, this is also a very good question, but if it happens constantly that the requirements, let's say business requirements and those kind of like specifications are not very precise, well, then I would say that the problem is not with the QA and testing. I would say that it would be very, very important to have discussion with those people who are responsible for, creating these requirements and specifications. Are they using AI? Are they improving their materials, which affect the whole, life cycle and what you are creating? So what I mean that the adaptation should be affecting all of the different roles there working for the product or the company. So I would take the question over there.
Okay. Then another interesting question we have that how can national level and above QA communities help to enforce ethical QA down to the team level?
It's I would say that it's something that you have to make some noise about. If you stay quiet, if it's not discussed, if it's not brought up, of course, well, it doesn't, there are no improvements, and it might get, into a situation where those things are not considered at all. But on the other hand, it's the diversity, the different topics that are all important, and there also quality assurance communities in general, I think, are well good places because there are so many different areas and tracks, whether technical or theoretical, and different kind of like areas to specialize in, and bring up these kind of things. And for example, a community would be a perfect place to raise awareness of these kind of things, make people think about that. Hey, should I consider this more? And start the communication. So that's community is for sharing.
So basically, from your answers, I can see that like the bottom line would be proactive, because the community development and improvements, it's not about like a leader of the community saying we're going to do this or that, but about the participants of the community, either it's a team or a company, right? So like being a proactive in like making your initiatives about how things can be improved is basically the key to the success, right?
Yeah, that's my experience, because how many times will people push you out if you bring up something to, let's discuss about this, or can we have this more, or can we learn about this? So like you said, being proactive, and you don't have to push things, but start discussing.
Bring them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so two more questions. A common issue in the AI era is the rising barrier to entry into the industry, something communities used to help with. Can we integrate AI tools into communities so newcomers in QA can pass the junior threshold faster?
This is a very, very tricky question because, well, do companies really want to avoid using juniors? In my opinion, they should not, because, recruiting or taking a junior member into the team is something where you invest into the future. Bring in a junior and make this new member learn about the things, and create the career and become specialist there. If you think that, okay, you would only want to recruit, let's say, uh, experts that have like 20 years of experience, where would that lead this industry? The future would not look so good. So I would say that uh, it would be the best interest of the companies to invest in juniors. But on the other hand, of course, I do understand the questions also, how to get yourself in, or get an assignment, or a job, or whatever. So it's not easy, and I would say that this is a global issue all over. So it's difficult, but I still would say that, well, you'll get there someday. You'll find your place, and even if it would not be like the perfect place, it will teach you something, and you can use that knowledge maybe to set new goals for yourself, or improving your skills, or specialize in. So it is quite difficult thing.
Yeah, but we all need to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So far it's the last one, but guys, you have like 1, 2 minutes while we are reading this one and answering to put new questions if you have some. If not, this one will be the last one. So the question is from Serhi. Some companies have already adopted space driven, I think a specific driven development, and moved to small teams where there is no dedicated QA role. Is becoming a developer the way forward?
Very good question, and it might very well be the answer. But becoming only a developer, is that the correct thing, or should it be like multi-talented developer? Of course, how can you become such that you would understand all the different parts and areas of software development lifecycle? But I think, the idea of product teams and team members without specific roles, but supporting each other, I think that is the way that we should move towards. So maybe becoming a developer with, let's say, quality assurance and testing skills and knowledge would be a good thing.
Definitely will be a plus, not a minus, 100%.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the previous question? We have some clarification to the question about the junior specialists. So the main perspective of this question was AI tools integration in communities for faster teaching for newbies. So is there any AI solutions that can help fasten?
Most probably there are, implementation of such services. Well, of course, it depends on the communities and well, in my opinion, usually, let's say communities outside of companies, larger, let's say national or local communities, well, they are a collection of people working in the industry, and the communities there might not have such services. And then if you think about then organization internal communities, of course those should have in place some kind of like induction materials, training materials, and of course using AI services there. But that's also limited, to the people or the employers of that particular company. By having like general this kind of service available, it might exist, but I have no example of what to share. Maybe those traditional things that there are like different learning paths, courses, books, or whatever. Those, of course, also include some AI services, but some might be, well, costly. I'm not sure if there are like freeware to be used. I really do not know. I haven't been looking into this area, so don't know.